In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I give praise and thanks to Allah for His love and mercy upon humanity. Always when man goes astray, giving us guidance and direction back to His straight path. Always raising among every people prophets and messengers who reflect His will in real time. Among them, Moses with the Torah, Jesus Christ with the Gospel, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, and the Holy Quran. I stand here humble and thankful to Allah for His intervention in our affairs here in North America in the person of Master W. Farid Muhammad, who came here alone in 1930 from the city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia, and in 1931 met in the city of Detroit in an area called Black Bottom a young man named Elijah Poole, whom you now know to be the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He is the eternal leader of the Nation of Islam and a warner to the Aboriginal people of the planet Earth and to all the nations of the earth. And I am so honored and still shocked that I have the privilege of representing his national representative, the living example of a free, independent, and sensitive black man. And I am talking about none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I greet all of you in the words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. Wow, what an honor and just great experience to be here in New Orleans and also Baton Rouge. And I want to thank from the bottom of my heart the laborers and believers here in New Orleans at Muhammad Mosque number 46. It's my first visit here. This is so beautiful. Congratulations on your work. Wonderful, wonderful place. I know the guests are enjoying this. And I'm sorry people have to stand up, but I'm happy that you have to stand up. Because nobody wants to talk to empty chairs. Way, way, way back in the Jurassic Park days when I was a child and television was black and white, there was a cartoon, Rocky and Bullwinkle. And there was a, Sister Captain's laughing, but there was a character in that Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoon, and he was a professor of history, and he would teach, and there was nobody in the audience but some cardboard puppets. And he would just teach and teach, and when he wanted an applause, he'd pull a string and they would clap. So I said, I hope that doesn't happen to me. So thank you for being here in real life, in real time. And I want to thank, there are believers here from other cities and even from across the line in Texas, and I thank you all. I'm happy to see Dr. Ridgely here, his beautiful wife, Sister Ann. He co-hosts with me on Elevated Places on Blog Talk Radio, and we try to bring the urgency of the hour to our people. And so if I leave anybody out over the course of these few minutes, just somebody pass me a note. But I'm thankful to everyone, and it's been a great few days. We've been here since Thursday. My husband told Brother Jason this morning, the security's been great, the ground transportation. My youngest daughter thinks that she's going to take the Mercedes-Benz back to Chicago. But my husband said, well, I know you were glad we came, but you'll be glad when we leave, because we have really stretched out here. Sister Lakisa and the sisters have prepared these incredible meals. I really am overdue for some how to eat to live. Not one meal a day, but one meal every 2 or 3 days for a while. But part 3 today of a series I've been speaking on entitled The Sin of Integration. And I don't say that to hate anybody. I'm not talking about that little white person at your job that brings you Starbucks. I'm talking about the big boys, the shadow government. I'm talking about the dragon, okay? And I am saying to you from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he said it, he said sin, he said integration is a sin. Why? Why is it a sin? Well, you can get part 1 and part 2, but I want to do part 3. Right here in this Crescent City, this profound place with this profound people. You have been through so much, I know, and yet here you are. And so Allah, God, wanted you not only to undergo something, but wanted you to be a light and an example to the rest of us of how to come through a trial with your faith intact. I'm comfortable saying to you today, beloved, that I'm here representing a man as a student in his class. I represent a man who is alive and among us today. And while I know we are celebrating Kwanzaa, and I appreciate so much the spirit behind the celebration of Kwanzaa, can I be honest with you? I really find as a people our reluctance to stand up with our leaders while they live to be disturbing. With all of our professions of love for the sacrifice of those before us, what about right now? The greatest gift from Allah, God, whether you know him as Allah, Jehovah Christ, the greatest gift from him is the moment. That is why the time we're in the moment is called the present. It's a present. It's a gift. So don't turn away from the gift of the present to the past. Respect the past, but have gratitude for who's looking in your face right now. Do we have any idea of what it might have been like to know Nat Turner? What it would have been like to know that little, wasn't bigger than a minute, Harriet Tubman with a gun bigger than her. What kind of persona did she project? Think you wanted to be around Marcus Garvey? You think you could act a fool and be around Marcus Garvey? Think about it. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, so serious and committed that at 39 he was gone. That's how dangerous he was to white America. Most people I know 39 are still partying. Right. Think about it. He was 26 when he stood up. And I can tell you without hesitation, though I didn't know him, I wasn't around or in the nation at the time, but I'm in the nation now. Right. And I'm going to tell you one thing, you who love Malcolm, you probably couldn't have survived in the room with Malcolm. Malcolm look at you 90 carat crazy if you come around him being a clown. Minister Farrakhan said Malcolm followed the restrictive law to the letter. You ever hear about Malcolm with some women? Come on. Everybody that I've heard that knew him said 1 meal a day, that's what he ate, 1 meal a day. He didn't chew gum, he didn't suck on candy. No nonsense. You don't lead black people and be a clown. So it's easy to look at cards and portraits on walls and mottos and sayings. Malcolm, the Malcolm that you love, was in the Nation of Islam. Malcolm X, a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he had only been out of the nation for a little over a year. And you can trust and believe that the U.S. government was all up in it. In fact, I shared last year in a lecture on the assassination of Malcolm, when they put that movie out, Betty and Coretta, how interesting they waited until neither of them are here. How interesting they portrayed conversations between Sister Betty and Sister Coretta, and it was just the two of them. So did they tell you, Mr. Television Man, what they said to each other? See, we have to be very, very careful about how we think. But the U.S. government in the Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover was director of the FBI. We have FBI memos. We've put them up. They're on Google. They're on NOI.org. You can Google them on the internet, where the FBI brags about the assassination of Malcolm. An internal memoranda. Minister Farrakhan is here. He's not dead. So what bothers me about us is, what is it? Is it that we're afraid that while the person is alive, breathing, and an immediate threat to the comfort of white supremacy, that we don't want to be around them? But we love dead people because we're safe. Because a period has been put at the end of their life. So I just wanted to start with chapter 10 in Arabic, Surah, chapter 10, Yunus, Jonah. And just say to you from the translator, Maulana Muhammad Ali, that this chapter is named, of course, after Jonah, same Jonah that was swallowed by the whale. That's him. This is Jonah. This chapter is demonstrating to us that his people benefited from his warning. Jonah was one of the few prophets whose people benefited from his prophecy because they listened. Most people that are sent or given a prophet, and prophets and messengers are always from among your own people. It's not going to be some white Santa Claus that comes to us. It's going to be Pookie.
That's right. That's right. Come on.
That's who it's going to be. That dude ain't nothing. I know his family.
That's
right. Duh. It's someone who shares with you a common ancestry, a common history, and a common experience that is raised up in your midst. Jesus, the carpenter's son. Oh, if I'd only been alive during the time of Jesus, what? You'd have been in a corner whispering about him like the rest of them. Moses, Noah, Sally, Lot, all of them. It's easy for us to say, but we're being tested in the present. In the present. And so when you read Jonah, which is a beautiful chapter of, this is a beautiful book, the Holy Quran, look at the detailed references to Noah and Moses. But in selecting Jonah's name for this title, Allah is getting across to us that there is such a thing as getting some extended time. And the chief feature of this chapter is that while it asserts the truth of revelation, it also lays stress on the mercy of the divine supreme being. And what I am saying to us, beloved, that Minister Farrakhan is a mercy. He's the attribute of God's mercy in our midst. Why? Because number one, his name is a name you've never heard.
Come on. That's right.
Other than him. And anybody else calling themselves that got it from him.
Right.
And I just want you to think about it.
Right.
Do you think that the man God gives you is going to be a politician?
Come on.
He's not. In fact, all of our freedom fighters historically have been God-inspired people.
That's right.
Yeah, Harriet Tubman had dreams. She had revelation from the Lord. Nat Turner was a preacher, a minister.
Right.
Dr. King, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You're not going to see historically that politicians, and God knows television journalists who get a paycheck. You know, when Minister Farrakhan leaves the rostrum, he doesn't go to a job.
Come on.
Moses left Pharaoh's house. You pretty much have to if you're going to lead a people whose time has come to fulfill their destiny. And so we have mercy amongst. We have a man with a unique name, Farrakhan.
All right.
For Khan, the discrimination, that which distinguishes truth from falsehood. And what I am asking you to think about is not allowing the children of our slave masters to define him for you when you have access to him right in your phone. Your phone is smart. Why don't you get smart? You can be in the dark and go look at NOI.org and watch the time and what must be done. You see? Please do that. Because this man is bringing something you're not going to get from any other source. And I'm not a cult follower. But I was a cancer patient. And they told me I was out of here. And when I heard that word, it brought my cells back to life. John said in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the Word became flesh and dwelled among men. It all begins with a word. So whatever you are suffering, I'm here to tell you, whatever your problem is, your hand and arm may be short, but God's is not. And there's no problem that you have that he does not have the solution to. Don't you doubt it. Our biggest problem is our own doubt and confining ourselves to our own limitations. The reason the prophets lived so long back in the day, as I was saying yesterday, Noah, 960 years, took 110 years to build the ark. That's serious. One reason they lived so long, several. Number one, they only ate food that grew up out the earth. They didn't go to Mickey D's. They ate what grew out of the earth, and they ate sparingly. Because when you eat natural food, you get satisfied. But when you live at Burger King and McDonald's and all of these places, you're not getting any nutrients. So no matter how full you get, an hour later, you're starving. So they ate properly. But you know what the biggest thing they did that kept them going? They turned their problems over to God.
Come on. One more time.
They turned their problems over to God. What takes us out of here is stress.
Right. Come on.
Stress comes from self-diagnostic procedures, okay? And medicating and treating our spiritual illnesses ourselves.
Come on.
When we have the master available. Now, if you turn everything over to him, you don't have to think as much about these problems that are making you and I sick. So the more we pray and turn our problems over to him and listen for the answer, and when the answer comes, accept it.
That's right.
Because he doesn't leave us without an answer. Don't ever say he didn't answer you. Say you shut him down because you didn't want to hear it. I got teenagers. You ask them, why'd you go and do that? As if, we know we did the same thing.
That's right.
But you got to go through the whole ritual. Why did you go and do that crazy thing? Why didn't you ask me? Why didn't I ask you? Because you would have said no.
That's right. Come on.
So this is why we don't ask Allah.
Say that.
Oh, I married the wrong person. Oh, really?
Come on.
Oh, Allah, why did you let this happen? I heard somebody say that in a meeting with the minister. The minister said, be very careful about attributing what you do to Allah. And be really, really careful about saying he told you something. Because you're God also. You are a God, but he is the God. But that I inside of us, you're the apex predator of the planet. You're the highest level of the food chain. There's nothing above you except him. So the ego sometimes gets us confused, and sometimes we think we are the supreme being. So we talk to ourselves, and we say Allah told us when we told us.
That's right. Make it plain.
So when you say, well, I told myself not to do that, well, who's the I? And who is myself? Are we schizophrenic? No, there is the essence of Allah inside of us. He shares some of his essence with all of us. And every single person in this room, you are the only person ever born in 76 trillion years. That is you. You may look like Young Blood, Uncle Snoop, Aunt Jane. You ever had somebody come to you in the store? Hey, I thought you was my cousin. You look just like my cousin down in Mississippi. But even with your twin, there's something different. One of y'all came out of there ahead of y'all didn't both come out there together. Somebody came a minute or two ahead. That alone differentiates you. Position of the planets. There are so many factors and his unique combination of attributes. But everybody in here has some of his essence, and there's not a single soul in here who is excess or who came here when God had a bad day. Your parents may have had a bad day. It may not have been the best situation for them. But let me tell you, you and I would not be here if Allah did not want you right here, right now. And so you owe him and humanity the duty to become yourself. Because you're here to help advance all of us to another level. And if you sit up and imitate something that's already here, and if you try to blend yourself with something he has decided he wants out of here, then you are acting contrary to his will and your nature. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told us that Allah shares some of his essence with us. Now, how much of his essence does he give us? Like that much. But guess what? That little drop of his, you were talking about the essence of the God who created himself in and from the triple darkness of space over a period of 6 trillion years, who willed the sun into existence. A man, not a spook, a black man, made out of the material he came out of, who, when he completed his self-creation, searched for another self because he wanted recognition. Water seeks its level. He needed another self to appreciate and have the intellectual, spiritual capability for him to get soul satisfaction from, as well as physical and emotional. So he didn't get a rib from a white man. He studied himself. He went into his own subconscious mind. And from himself, he brought forth another self called woman. And from those two, all of us are here. So you have some of the essence of him. All of us do. So that little drop he gave you, Minister Farrakhan said, that drop is enough to make us crazy. That's how much power is in it. One of our people, trillions of years ago, I didn't come here to say any of this, one of our scientists, and this is, I just had to tell you, this is why white people are afraid of you, black man. And you, black woman. They know you better than you know yourself. They know your history and theirs. But they know that when you go off, you tear planets apart.
That's right. Come on. Come on.
They know this of you. This planet isn't even what it was originally because of you suffering from oppositional defiant disorder.
Say that.
One brother, one of our scientists, was angry and upset because he couldn't make everybody speak the same dialect. The Sister Phyllis X has done a great study on what he did. And Dr. Ridgely and I debate all the time about this scientist that blew the planet up, and the part of the earth that he blew away is what you call moon.
Right.
And when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad started teaching that in the 1930s, he was mocked. Now, in the 2000s, white people do, oh, you're right. We've been studying for 70 years, and we realize the moon used to be part of the earth. We know that. They made mockery of him. But Brother Dr. Rich and I debate over who was his wife. Because, and where, you know, what, because the woman, look, that's to help me. So, I don't know, was she saying, yeah, you know? You right, baby. You know, they don't want to follow you with your fine self. It's jealous. Or was she, please don't do this. Or did she warn everybody? And that's why some of the members of the family were saved, of whom we are the descendants. The tribe of Shabazz. That's who you and I are. The last descendants. Shabazz is an ancient Arabic word that means indestructible. You and I are indestructible. Even though we try to self-destruct every day, we can't even take ourselves completely out. And proof you're indestructible is the 400 years we just came through. That no people, the Native Americans were all but annihilated. Think about it. There's no way Caucasian people could have survived it. That's why they came and stole us. They could not build this country. And they didn't do that just for labor. We didn't bring just muscle over here. We brought engineering. We brought culture. We taught them how to use a tablecloth and how to use a knife, fork, and spoon. So I'm going to, the sin of integration, very quickly. So you read Jonah yourself. we have to move on. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said these words, and I'll say this very quickly. Integration is a sin because it violates the first law of nature, which is to accept your own and be yourself. He said, we do not need soft talk when it comes to truth. We need the thrust that will pull us off our knees from begging. And that's why you need a wartime consigliere.
That's right.
We don't need these people on television. We need a conversation while we're being slaughtered in the streets. We don't need a conversation. We need to get up off our knees. And he identifies the opposition as two categories. First category, ignorant black people. Second category, envious white people. It is the law of nature that when two species encounter, one is going to rule over the other. Now, we are dealing with the extreme madness and the absence of a set of reasoning powers in these people that are killing us and our children. And it is disturbing when you hear the thinking processes of both people. And I'll just share with you, someone gave me the article that was in the newspaper here in New Orleans on, let me see the date of this. This is just a few days ago. This was November the 30th, okay? And I'm just going to read, deadly force by NOPD, New Orleans Police Department, has been criticized. And it goes through the history of this city and the killings of black people by police, because we know it's coast to coast. You know, COP is a what do they call those acronyms, whatever, for Constable on Patrol. And the whole reason they were developed was to go after runaway slaves. You know, we didn't have a prison system. We had jails here and there like Mayberry. Because white people don't lock white people up. They detest the idea of it, seriously. It goes against their whole genetic makeup. The reason the prison system evolved into this big behemoth is me and you. When we were on the plantation, they didn't have no correctional system. They didn't have unemployment. Everybody had a job. And there's still work. They just don't want to pay you. Their economic system is built on free labor. It's the foundation of their economy. They do not know how to build an economy except on the backs of poor people. Now, all of this anti-Latino attitude and sentiment is as phony as a $3 bill.
That's right.
Wealthy white people, after you got tired of it,
Right.
and Those of us who are your parents went through Ungawa, Black Power. We ain't doing this no more. They went and got the Latino people who are original people.
That's right. That's right.
You go in people's country, you destroy their economy, you colonize, you kill leaders, you destroy people's economy because it is against the law of nature for us to get something for nothing. It's prohibited in this book. You give and you take. This book says, woe to the cheater.
Come on. Come on.
You know, when he takes excessively, but when he gives, he withholds. Walmart, richest company on the earth. You don't want to pay a worker $12 an hour. Every one of the 5 Walmart children is on the Forbes 400 list. You know what that list is? That's the list of the 400 richest people in America. In order to even get on that list, you have to have net personal assets. Net meaning after your bills and debts.
Right.
Personal, not your company.
Right.
I'm talking about what you can go to the ATM and pull out.
Right.
You got to have $1.55 billion to be number 400.
Come on.
Number 1 on the list is Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Microsoft, $81 billion. This man can take care of everybody. I'm not angry at him. I'm just telling you what's out here, what's going on. Now, almost everybody on that list makes their money from investment. What does that mean in real terms? They make money off money. Bill Gates at least did a service, Microsoft. You have very few services. None of those people on that list feed people. The casino guy in Vegas, Steve Wynn, he's on there. The Victoria's Secret guy, he's on there. Most of those people on there are gamblers. That's what they are. They play the stock market. Hedge fund managers. See? Now, since they do nothing, they don't work. They just sit on the laptop. Somebody has to compensate for that. Because if I got $80 billion and I'm really not doing anything, then you got to go and exert sweat and blood. Because Allah is always going to balance nature. So you say, well, why don't they want to pay $12 an hour? That's why. Because you and I have to work for free. So you go in Mexico and you make life a living hell. And so when the Aboriginal people leave Mexico, leave Guatemala, leave Ecuador, they're so desperate to get out that they come here. And of course, America is a place everybody wants to be. Where even poor people have flat screens. How you doing? I'm all right. America, the world's shopping mall. Okay? So you come up here and now a certain segment of the white population who's aware of Dr. Yaqub and the genetic origin of white people. So there's too many brown and black people up in here. We're going to be subsumed. So here come immigration laws. But the very people that are making the laws are the people that brought the people here in the first place to clean their houses.
Right.
To work in the garden. And they want to say you, black people don't want, and dumb Negroes parrot them like some dolphin. We don't want to work. We don't want to work. We built this entire country, but we don't want to work. No, I I don't want to work for 12 hours somewhere and then go get in line to get some public assistance. You're right. I don't want to do that. While you sit in Starbucks on your iPad Air and gamble. You're the one that doesn't want to work. You're the one that wouldn't even build your own country.
That's right.
Now, where was I? So, but it's disturbing to learn the thinking processes. You know, for example, and going to this article in the newspaper here, because I've been talking for the last 4 lectures about the grand jury process as a former prosecutor myself. But I want to read this. University of Pittsburgh law professor David Harris told the Cleveland Plain Dealer that grand juries are instructed to assess police decisions in deadly force cases by deciding how a reasonable officer should have acted. The law gives a wide berth, B-E-R-T-H, to these kinds of judgments by an officer. As a grand jury member, we are to put ourselves in their shoes. And by the nature of their job, facing daily risks to protect society and enforce laws, police often are afforded great leeway behind the doors of grand jury rooms where only the evidence prosecutors choose to show is examined. As I told you, the grand jury is a tool of the prosecutor. Former federal prosecutor Lori Levinson, law professor at Loyola in Los Angeles, told the website Talking Points memo, quote, "It is really hard to convict a police officer. They get a super presumption of innocence. We don't want to believe that the people we hire to protect us could be the people who want to harm us. So we give them a huge benefit of the doubt." See, who is the we? Who is the us? Student Minister Willie Muhammad was telling my family and I about here after Katrina and how in the affluent white neighborhood they came to Mayor Nagin and wanted him to send the New Orleans police to protect their property. Think about Ferguson. Why all those police were in Ferguson. They were there to protect white-owned property. The police are public servants. But of what public?
Come on now.
I already did this in part 1 of what I'm teaching today, but I want you to hear and listen or go read this 1,500-page report, American Dilemma, the Negro Problem. Because you will see in that the psychology of the average white police officer. They are selected due to a psychological profile. And the conclusion that the Swedish Nobel laureate that did the study, and this study is hailed to this day as a great work, it's done in the 40s. When you and I were getting tired of discrimination, coming back from World War II to fight for democracy, and black soldiers being lynched in their uniforms. That's what really gave impetus to the civil rights movement. And of course, the murder lynching of Emmett Till sent us into another level, and that's what's occurring now. Because now we can't play hide and seek, as a lot of us love to do. Because long as I can watch the Super Bowl, take a few tokes, get a little something, something here and there, I'm good. We's free, master. Well, no, we're not. Now, all of us are facing the elephant in the room, which is any one of us could walk out here and encounter the wrong police officer in the wrong mood at the wrong time in the wrong place, and that's the end of us. You see? If Trayvon, a high school student, could go to get some Skittles and end up in some wet grass with a hole in his chest, not even from a police officer, but from a sociopath, George Zimmerman, and 5 white women, and 1 confused sister. Let that man, she could have hung that jury. We don't even have that much courage or self-respect to sit up in a room and say, I'm not with this. 1 juror can hang a jury, hang this man's verdict, and make him try this case again and do it right. Because they purposely mishandled that case. They did not prepare their witnesses. Talking about the prosecution. They were victimized. Even the medical examiner was victimized in the Trayvon Martin case. Now the defense lawyer for Zimmerman, who's one of the most slimy racist crackers I've ever seen on television in modern times, he's a consultant for CNN. So you talk about rubbing salt in the wound. But when Darren Wilson gets 4 hours in the grand jury to talk about how he's scared of black people and refers to this woman's child sister as a demon, Hulk Hogan, it had called him an it, had the face of a demon. He's got a website up where he's collected over $1 million. That's why he left the job. Do you think, now they keep saying, oh, the job is so dangerous, right? Police officers so dangerous. It's not even on the top 10 most dangerous jobs in America. It's not. It didn't even make the list. Think about that. My husband used to be a lineman for Commonwealth Edison, dealing with them volts. That's dangerous. Now listen at this interview. There's a white cop on MSNBC a few months ago during all this brouhaha. And the interviewer, the anchor, is saying to the cop, why are you guys so afraid of black people when statistically there's no reason? It's very rare that they take you out. In fact, it's gone down. And you're not on the top 10. Listen what the answer was. And this is what I'm saying about mindsets and the danger of a mindset when it prevails over reality. You know what he said? None of that matters. It's psychological. In that officer's mind, he or she is standing between the community and violence. And the violence is coming from the community. Now, here is an officer, you don't know the people personally. And the ones you do know, you only interact with them because you've made them informants, etc. And because you are law enforcement, your encounters are not positive ones for the most part. And think about that. So my question to you, beloved, is the answer retraining? And I submit to you it is not. Now look at this. The pathology of racism. In 2012, Time magazine, a couple years ago, reported that a significant number of psychologists believe what you and I already know. Racism is a mental disorder. In its extreme forms, it leads to violent and random murder and massacre of those of another race. One group of British psychiatrists is studying the use of a particular blood pressure medication to cure what they call implicit bias, which is fundamentally founded on fear. Now, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, who studied the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and people made mockery and were mortified when he said white people are the product of a laboratory experiment. And of course now, just like with deportation of cloning. They're doing the very same thing that we did that produced them. Now you can take it or let it alone. We don't have any time to prep your mind. It's too late. It's 2015 almost. It's too late. You take it or let it alone. Now, and if you believe there's a Santa Claus, you can process this, because that's what's crazy. Now, Dr. Welsing said that the white male, in particular, suffers from fear of genetic annihilation. You, black man, in his mind, Dr. Welsing said, you're always armed. Every one of these cases, we thought he had a gun, right? We thought he had a gun. We thought he had a gun. We thought he had a gun. He didn't have a gun. You do have a gun. Your gun is your reproductive capability. You are the original man. You are the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. You came from the mind of God. He came from your loins. From use of your seed mixing and blending with her egg. Over a period of 600 years, extracting the weaker germ from the stronger germ and producing a lighter and lighter. And we always had light-skinned people. As y'all say, light-skinned. I'm not talking about light-skinned. I'm talking about melanin challenged. Because everything comes from melanin. The whole spectrum. You want an Asian looking woman, we got them. You ain't got to go on self-destruct. You too. Come on, Miss Scandal. Now, I don't know where all this suddenly came from. Now, we used to be true blue, true black. Now, that's all I see now is you and them. I'm really off the grid. But it is a fear. It's a genetic fear. You cannot train me out of my genetic makeup. You understand? You can't. If I am a jaguar in the jungles of Costa Rica, I'm going to deal with you like a jaguar. Okay? There's nothing you can do to make me other than a jaguar. So when you see me, there ain't nothing for you to do but run. You can't talk to me. You can't have lunch with me. Your best shot is to get out of Dodge as fast as you can. And that is why we have to separate from these people. Because you have much of a chance of changing their behavior toward you as you do sitting down with a crocodile. Test me on it. Go on and talk, keep talking to them. We've been here since 1555. How long do you try to talk to a woman or a man before you see it? Say, this isn't working. You married 5 minutes. I'm out of here. I knew, my mama told me. My best friend said you wasn't nothing. Oh no, he dead. This is at the reception. And I'm gone, I'm gone, I'm out of here. But 400 years later, we need to have a conversation. You know, you're a sick puppy. Seriously. What do they call that sweet syndrome? Where the what is it called? Stockholm syndrome, where the victim identifies with the kidnapper. And even in those cases, it's really while they're with the kidnapper, like Patty Hearst back in the day. But once they get out and a little light comes in, they run for their lives. Like I've been saying all weekend, those girls up there in Cleveland, that crazy man held them for 10 years. They couldn't get far enough away from him. I was so glad they found him dead. Because I didn't want to think about what should be done with him. Our parents, we talk about the ancestors. Do you think Harriet Tubman wanted to live next door to some white people? When you think about what it took to go from here to Ohio, and when you get in north, you're just running into, you know, they didn't believe in slavery up there, but that don't mean they like black people. They just have a different economic methodology. They just don't want to have to feed you. And you have a lot of white people that just don't believe in torture. Okay? But that doesn't mean they want, you know, like Frances Cress Wellesley says, she did a study. She went to white people. And she would ask them, are you racist? No, I'm not. Very good. Are you married to a white person? Yes, I am. Okay, you're white and they're white. Okay. Do you have children? Yes, we do. How many children do you have? We have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. Okay. Do you want your grandchildren to be colored? Absolutely not. So I'm not a racist either. But I don't want confusion. White people have been white ever since we knew them, right? From the first time John Hawkins stepped on the shores of West Africa, they've been white people. Not us. We've gone from, they called us niggers and coons and all that. So there was a time we thought colored was dignified. And it was compared to being called a coon. Then we went to Negro. Then it was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You can take it or let it alone. It was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad who woke you up to the reality and made you realize and recognize and love you're black. It's not rocket science. You're black. So we got got into black is beautiful, black owned, black employed, black that, and then all of us white people, we don't like this. We feel like we're being subsumed. So all of a sudden, here comes integration. And along with integration comes Afro-American. Which, I mean, is that because we had Afro? I never did get that. So we had Afro-American for a while, and then we started sliding back and merging. And then we had African-American. Now it takes a minute to say that. And so I said, and the African Americans and we're stumbling over this, and they're sitting there, we're white. We're white. One syllable, firm. My children have no reservations about who they are. They are white people. But our children, what am I, Mom? Well, you know you got some Indian. Your daddy was a Cherokee. Your great-great-grandmother on the other side was from Scotland, and you got a little touch of her. That's why you got that good hair. And then we wonder why they don't want to be around us.
Come on, sis.
When we say black, we don't mean that literally. We mean the whole spectrum of a melanin-dominated people. You see, all praises be to Allah. But how long, as I close, does a living organism exhibit traits before we recognize that those traits are indicative of something genetic? You know, when a grizzly stands up and does his thing, we know there's something in his nature. But we don't want to face that when it comes to the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of our slave master. So I'm going to close with some words from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan from the Time and What Must Be Done lecture series, which you can go pull up on NOI.org. And this is from part 19 of the Time and What Must Be Done. America, he's talking to America. And how many black men do we have that will talk to America? Our poor president won't do it. He can't do it. He is the best president this country has ever had. I'm not saying it because he's black. I am saying he is the best in terms of capability, in insight, brilliance. But nothing that he brought to the table is benefiting the country. Because there's such hatred and contempt toward his black skin and his black wife and black children and black dogs. We could have health care, universal health care. Our bridges are falling apart. We know what happened in this city. And we know it wasn't all nature that caused that flood. We know that. And if you go back and look at that work I told you, An American Dilemma, you will see that there has never been, from Thomas Jefferson on, any plan on the part of this country for you and I to assimilate. That's right. Ever. That's right. Do you know why Liberia's capital is named Monrovia? Somebody said, huh? Liberia is the country in Africa that was founded by former slaves from here. The capital is Monrovia, named in honor of President James Monroe, who did most of the financing. They have been trying to deport us since they had enough cotton picked. Do you honestly think that white man had a vision of Kanye and Kim?
Come on, man. Come on.
Honest to God, you think that was in the plan? Of Tiger Woods and the little, the babysitter, the blonde babysitter? They send white women to get you, Samson. They send them. They surround the brothers, sister, in the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, golf, tennis, entertainment world, politics. This is why no matter how nice President Obama is to them, no matter how open-minded, he is the child of an interracial marriage. He's real about all getting along. He grew up like that. He believes we can all get along, but they don't believe him. Why? You know why they fear him? Because he picked Michelle.
That's right. Come on, man.
You know, a man that loves himself, when he produces children, he wants the children to look like him. That's what Allah wants. Allah wants to see in us a reflection of himself.
That's right.
He said, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. And we're under chastisement because when he looks at us, he does not see a reflection of himself. So we're being punished. Now, minister, I closed the thing on the minister's words. Oh my God. He said, America, you will not let our people go. See, look at the psychosis of America. Blacks this, black that. We're scared of you. Then don't retrain. Let's hire black police officers.
That's right.
We will police our own community. I want you to show me one predominantly white. I've been asking for this on my radio show in Chicago. Show me one predominantly white community in all of America that is policed by black cops. I've been asking for that for weeks. No one has called. No one has tweeted. Nothing from Instagram. Nothing on Facebook. No Kick, none of that. Because there ain't no such place. He said, you, America, like ancient Babylon, are going to fight God till the end. I feel sorry for you. You know, Pharaoh fought against God, but as he was dying in the Red Sea, he recognized the power of God against his delusion of power. And he said, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. And in his bearing of witness of God, in his dying breath, the scripture teaches his body was saved. If you go to the museum in Egypt, and he's right, my husband and I have been there, you'll find his body as a sign to you, America. God saved the mummified body. And he said God saved his body so that you could see. Because you are in the same state or worse than Pharaoh. Babylon could have been healed. Pharaoh could have been spared. America could have been spared. But it is your leaders drunk with the power of their delusion of might who are ready to fight against God. I want to show you in the monumental book by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Message to the Black Man in America, where he describes the beast of Revelation. Please read pages 124, 125. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes, the name beast, when given to a person, refers to that person's characteristics, not an actual beast. Study the history of how America treats the freedom, justice, and equality that is supposed to be given to all citizens of America. And of course, the Negroes are not citizens of America. A citizen cannot and will not allow his people and government to treat him in a way that America treats her so-called Negroes. And I want to stop right there. I also have an article here from the New York Times you might want to look up when you have a chance. And this came out on the 25th of December. There's interviews in there with black police officers about, like, what are you all thinking, during all of this? And one black police officer said he tells his friends Eric Garner should have just put his hands behind his back. When a cop tells you to put your hands behind your back, you do it. This is frightening because it says this brother has adopted the perception of a slave master toward a slave. See, as a man, Eric Garner was a man who was out in a country that has closed almost every legitimate avenue to financial success to the black man. Yet he would get up every day and go out and find a way to feed his family. That's a man, married with children. So as a man, as a citizen, he's not going to just put his hands behind his back. And how many black men have we found dead with their hands cuffed behind their back, as though that's going to guarantee you're going to be saved? But see, that's a Negro, that's a Chicken George saying, just do what the white man tell you to do. Why aren't you asking, why were you trying to arrest him? Over a taxed cigarette.
Right.
You're selling loose cigarettes. Will you sell them in packs? You had us in the tobacco fields breaking our neck to produce death. You're the one that sells nicotine. More addictive than heroin. Ought to be against the law. So he's trying to make a living. He opens up the package and sells them one at a time. And you want him to go to prison? Why didn't Bernie Madoff go to prison? The Jew that stole $60 billion. He had to put himself in jail. No, seriously, they knew what he was doing and they acted like they didn't know. He confessed to his family. And his sons busted him. One killed him. One of his sons committed suicide and the other one died of cancer from the stress of their father ripping off other Jews. Mitt Romney ran for president. Don't pay no taxes. That's why our bridges are falling down. Because the wealthy at the very top moved all of their wealth out of this country. This is not a nation. This is not a democracy. This is a place where wealthy people suck the blood of the masses and they use the police to protect their property. Most of them don't even live here anymore. They may have a place, but they live in Paris, they live in the Fiji Islands, they live all over the world. They made a country for themselves, Dubai, in the so-called Middle East, which is really Africa. They made a fake country. Some devil was on the internet talking about Kwanzaa is a made-up holiday. And they asked for comments. I said, you're a made-up facsimile of a person. You're made up. How you gonna talk about something made up? And I don't even comment. But I was looking up Kwanzaa for my talk. Man, how dare you? Anyway, I'm really done. All that to say, Eric Garner had he's being critiqued is what I'm saying, in depth. Because remember he said, officer, I'm minding my own business. And they know him. That's right. His wife said those cops called her the cigarette lady. So there is no safety zone with these people anymore. You ever see that program on Animal Planet called Fatal Attractions? Where these same crazy people, they have wild animals for pets. They go on the internet and they buy jungle cats and all this kind of stuff. And it's just a matter of time. It's not if. Before the rattlesnake before that black mamba snake, black mamba is from Africa, and it's just mean for the sake of being mean. It's little, it's fast. If that black mamba sees you, that thing might come from back there up here and bite me, and I'm just gonna fall out. And you got one for a pet. This is who you all want to live with. One guy, that's your neighbor. One man drove from Miami to New Jersey. You saw that one, and got a hyena. You know anything about a hyena? Have you lost your last brain cell? Hyenas try to deal with lions. They're crazy. They're one of the craziest. I don't even know where they came from. Its body has no symmetry to it whatsoever. They laugh. That's the laughing animal. He's a nut. So on top of being an animal and wild, he's just a nut. Okay? You bring one in an apartment. So the guy, he lived through the hyena. He survived it. But he said, when the hyena got a few months old, the hyena would run from one end of the apartment to the other and just knock itself against the wall. And he said, I don't understand. Now look at their mind. I didn't understand why he did that. Because there are no studio apartments in the plains of Africa. That's why. It is not his nature to sit and look at soap operas while you at work and make him some eggs. He was trying to get out. Okay, so finally he got so loud and crazy, the owner said, well, I'm going to call the zoo. And the zoo, they said in Miami, if you tell us you have a wild animal, we won't arrest you. Just bring the animal in. He decides, and he goes and buys a carrier for a dog. See there? He got the biggest one he could. I'm like, this isn't happening. Okay. Then he throws food into the cage and says, like, come on, Fluffy, come on. Whatever he named him, Joey. Come on. Yeah, they give him people names. Come on, Joey, come on. Go in there. And the hyena's looking at him like, are you serious? You know, so he goes, he smells the food, he moves toward it, and the guy pushes him into the cage. The hyena turns around and bumps him with his head and broke his arm at the shoulder. The hyena's jaws are like a concrete. You know, it's like you're being crushed to death. And so with his arm hanging, he pushed him back in and took him to the zoo. But my point is this. You are dealing with a mindset that you cannot cope with. And yet the animals are being shown more sensitivity than our children are being shown. They're on TV all day with the little puppy, the little cute, sad face. They're playing Silent Night, and they show the little cat face and the little. And if you want to help him, I don't see anything for black folks. No commercials for us. Shoot us on sight. All right? So it is our time to get away from this. And Minister Farrakhan says here, preaching alone will not suffice.
That's right.
Because just to answer the question, why are we suffering like this? Because we disobeyed the messenger of Allah. But I love you all so much. May Allah bless all of us with love and the light of understanding as I leave you in peace. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.